This is Mike Paule with the Lake Travis BIZ Report, and I'd like to welcome Kent Vestal with us this morning. Kent is a partner with the law firm of Blazier, Christensen, Browder, and Virr, and I want to welcome Kent to the Lake Travis BIZ Report. Good morning,
Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate being on.
Absolutely, glad to have you. So before we talk about our topic today, which is going to be this payroll protection plan, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Mike, over 30 years ago, I went to school to be a CPA. After I completed my degree, passed the CPA exam, I went to work in New York City on Wall Street. And while there, I started law school. And this was over 30 years ago. So I've been a CPA for over 30 years and a lawyer for about 30 years. And along the way, I've gathered many battle scars. So I know a lot about business. I've been consulting with business people for, as I said, over 30 years now. And I enjoy doing it, and that's my passion.
Having that background in both accounting and law is a very valuable skill to have, for sure.
It is, and I use it every day.
Perfect. So I know that a lot of our small businesses in our community have gone through a very tough year, as we all have, through this COVID pandemic. And last year, under the there was the CARES Act, if I recall, they established a payroll protection or Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. And so I wanted to, if you could tell us a little bit about, actually just a reminder of what PPP is, and let's start with that.
All right, PPP is a mechanism where small businesses can get loans through the Small Business Administration that are forgivable. So if you spend the money 60% on payroll and 40% on items, qualified items such as mortgage interest, rent, utilities, things like that, all of that loan can be forgiven. So it is essentially a grant to small business. Okay.
And I know that you mentioned that these loans can be forgivable. And I know there's certain criteria that we're probably not going to get into that much detail today. But I looked up a couple of interesting statistics, and I guess, and this was as of last week, but about 7 million loans actually have been approved, according to SBA, under this PPP program, and about $662 billion given out. And I think just in this year alone, there's been about almost 2 million loans approved for about 140 billion. But my understanding is that there's been some controversy about, whether or not small businesses are able to get the PPP funding and sort of that competition between small businesses and larger businesses. Can you weigh in a little bit on that, perhaps?
Well, the guidelines are that the business must have 500 or fewer employees. Now, there was some controversy early on with some of the larger banks, such as Chase, Wells Fargo, who are favoring their larger clients who essentially had loans with them. So they went to the front of the line. Now, some of that was remedied in the second round of PPP, where some of these larger banks, in order to avoid scrutiny, hired third-party consultants to administer the program for them. So their own bankers were not picking and choosing who would not get a PPP loan. So much of that has been remedied for the second round.
Okay, good to know. And then most recently, my understanding is President Joe Biden established some new guidelines and new rules for small businesses. Can you talk about that a little bit, about what's in place currently?
Well, what's in place currently is essentially the second round of PPP. And we are waiting on a third round of PPP with this proposed $1.9 trillion coronavirus bill that's now in Congress. Second round of PPP is a more targeted approach where to qualify, a small business must demonstrate that they had a 25% reduction in revenue from one quarter in 2019 to the corresponding quarter in 2020. Now, the loans are sized by 2.5 times a month average monthly payroll. In the second round, a restaurant or another qualifying hospitality business may get 3.5 times their monthly payroll. And another twist in that we have figured out is that for loans of $150,000 or below, a small business does not need to demonstrate a reduction of revenue. So on the application, if you are a small business and you don't have a reduction in revenue, you can still apply for the second round of PPP. On the application, leave blank that area that says what was your revenue in 19 versus your revenue in 20, and only apply for $150,000. Now, the caveat to that is that that loan may not, potentially may not be forgiven if you can't show a reduction in revenue at the time you apply for forgiveness. However, what you then have is a 1% loan that's amortized over 30 years. And I, as a small businessman myself, will take all that money I can get.
Yeah, definitely advantageous for small businesses who are
Absolutely.
Who are looking, for ways to help fund their business, through these difficult times. Can sole proprietors or independent contractors or people self-employed, are they eligible to be able to participate in this program?
Absolutely. A sole proprietor would just submit their Schedule C from the tax return, or if they have an LLC with another partner, they'd submit the tax return for the LLC. So yes, self-employed and independent contractors are eligible to receive PPP funds, and I have many clients that have done so.
Okay,
So
perfect.
absolutely.
And what is the key? Now, you mentioned about, whether you had a loss of revenue or not. So if you were self-employed or an independent contractor, do you have to show that you paid yourself, or what would be the criteria for determining someone saying, hey, maybe I am eligible and I should participate or look into this PPP?
Well, if you are self-employed, I would certainly apply. Always apply for PPP. You can't go wrong. Show them your Schedule C from 2019, or if you have it ready for 2020. It never hurts to apply. The amount that the loan may be sized, $25,000 to $30,000, which would equate to 2.5 times what you pull out of their monthly. But sure, apply. You can't. It never hurts to ask.
Right, absolutely.
I have many clients that have been self-employed, small business, sole proprietorships that have been successful in obtaining PPP funds, and I highly recommend it.
Terrific. Now, I understand that the under these new guidelines that have come out, they're offering a period of time where only small businesses are able to apply, and I think we are right in the middle of that right now. I believe, and this is under the new rules, new guidelines. So I think it's February 24th to March 9th. Is that correct?
Something like that, Mike. But to be honest, the goalposts are always moving with this. We never know what's coming through Congress or what guidelines the SBA may issue from day to day. So it doesn't matter what the guidelines say today. They may be different tomorrow.
Yeah,
so just apply, and a lot of times you will, or most of the time you'll be successful. And apply at multiple banks. And if one bank drags your feet or whatever, as soon as you get funded with one PPP loan, you withdraw your application from the other lenders.
So I understand that the program right now is scheduled to end on March 31st, but of course, I guess that would depend on what they do with this next go round of stimulus relief. Which is still going through Congress at this point.
Right. I fully expect, and I have read that this $1.9 trillion stimulus package going through Congress right now does contain a third round of PPP. The actual guidance on that, I'm not sure of yet, but I'm sure that will come once a bill passes and gets signed by the president, by God, we'll be reading it and we'll be up to speed on what it says quite quickly.
Now, if a business applied and received a PPP loan last year and it spent those funds and then continued, to have the difficulties, are they eligible to apply for a second PPP? Is that possible?
Absolutely. The second round is made for businesses that applied during the first round. That is when the second round PPP is for businesses that show a reduction in revenue of 25% from one quarter to the next. Now, a business that has not ever applied, did not apply during the first round, are not subject to those guidelines. So they can apply for a PPP loan, a first-time PPP loan, under the original guidance, which was not having to show a reduction in revenue. But if they receive a first-round PPP, the guideline states that you must show a diminution or reduction in income from one quarter in 2019 to the corresponding quarter in 2020. Again, that's subject to the floor of $150,000. So if you're within that $150,000 floor, you do not have to show that reduction or of income.
Okay. And if people do want to apply, obviously a lot of lenders are providing, this program. Is there anything, if somebody has a pre-existing relationship with a bank, I suppose they might want to go to their bank initially, but they're not restricted to that, correct? I mean, there's a lot of different lenders that are providing this service, this process.
I recommend that you go to your existing bank relationship with your business, and that person or that bank should, especially if you already have a loan officer there, that's where you should go initially. Now, for the second round, some lenders have been getting kind of squirrely, that if you don't have an existing relationship with them, they will not accept a PPP loan application from you. The terms vary from lender to lender. So check out a bunch of different lenders. My clients have had more success with the smaller lenders versus the larger lenders. And I won't name names, but the smaller lenders have been more responsive, let me put it that way.
And we have a lot of great local banks out here that are here, I'm sure, to help our local businesses go through this process and guide them through this process. Is there other resources where someone might get information about this if they had questions?
The SBA has a great website that has all the FAQs on there. So I suggest anyone that has questions, go visit the SBA website. Also, their existing bank relationship, go to your bank's website and they may provide more guidance for you on how to apply.
Okay, terrific. Any final thoughts or comments about, to our small business community, that maybe some words of advice as we try to all work together to get through this process and of course, hopefully into a much better times here in 2021.
That's right, Michael. And let me say this, I was quite disappointed that many small businesses did not apply for the PPP loans, and they should have applied because in essence, it's free money to help small businesses survive this pandemic. So I strongly suggest, please go apply. Even if you're not showing a decline in revenue, it's worth applying. You will, if you're applying for the first round, you will get forgiveness. And even if you don't have a decline in revenue for the second round PPP, go ahead and apply, because 1% money over 30 years is hard to obtain. Also, when the third round comes out, let's look at the guidelines. And, if you have any questions, give me a call because we will know it soon. But apply for the third round as well. We'll see what the guidelines are, and it'll be out there pretty quickly as to who qualifies. So please take advantage of this program.
Terrific, Kent. And we're going to have your contact information here on the screen if people do have questions or want to talk to you further about not only the PPP program, but other ways that you might be able to help them within their business. And again, I want to thank you for coming on Lake Travis BIZ Report here this morning, and for this really great and timely information that's important for all of our business community here, and particularly our small business community, as again, as we all seek to move forward here together. So again, Ken, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. Take care.